Hey y'all, it's Monday. I'm enjoying this rain. Got me indoors, kinda. I don't think I've ever stood in the doorway of this old house, used as a canning shed for a long period of time. I guess that'll change tonight. The garden is just absolutely exploding with growth and vegetables, and the peas are loaded. I did find one random pod of cream crowders out there this evening that it was just one, so I picked it and I ate them raw. Pretty good. But won't be long. We'll be doing peas and things of that nature. I don't really get into a lot on here about things in the news and all that. Those days for me are gone. It's a vicious cycle anymore. But couldn't help with noticing these old canned vegetables behind me, and this was just a way of life for this family and my family. This old shed would be a flurry of activity about now, as the summer garden's wrapped up and lots of canned goods were being pumped out of that house just right there and being stored right behind me for the different weekends that different family members would come up to restock their cupboards. But with all the hurricanes that we face and all the tragedy that's surely ahead on some fronts, got Florence in the Atlantic Basin, and if any of these rascals get into that boiling pot of the Gulf of Mexico, we'll have another mess as well. Just thought I'd share a few things maybe that either you might have thought about or need to think about in preparing. And I pondered on it today, and I've had the privilege of watching a lot of rescue efforts and seeing disaster relief in real time, and it's always the simple stuff that people miss and you need. And so many of us want to run to the grocery store and stock up, and it creates a panic of its own, and it's not a healthy way to do it. You pretty much got everything you need to ride out one of these storms or survive the aftermath, if you will, of flooding and things there in the home. Hopefully, if you've been ordered to evacuate, you would heed those orders, because it can get pretty dicey and puts a strain on the emergency responders for big needs in life and death situations when they're having to respond to every call that comes in. But just thought I'd share a few tips that I've found that after the storm might help you out if you're in one of those zones, or maybe just put your thinking cap on about things around the house. The storm's rough enough, especially on the coastal areas, and we all know the kind of destruction. We've seen the pictures. Some of us have even lived through it. Unfortunately, there'll be tragic casualties, but there'll also be a lot of heroic stories of people helping and making a difference. And as we normally do as Americans, we'll rise to the challenge and help those folks rebuild. But if you're inland, you deal with flooding and loss of power, and many years in the retail industry, and I've seen that change. And all of us joke and see that anytime an ice storm or anything like that hits, the grocery stores just completely empty out. Well, there's a reason for that. If you've thought about it, those stores are operating on a profit of thin margin these days, and they have hardly any warehouse. So whatever you see is not there a week later. Those trucks come every week. So when you disrupt that line, obviously you're going to have the shortages that you see when you put that strain on it. But that's a whole other story. But before, when the storm hits, you know that you're going to lose power. The folks that run the service stations and all of the things that supply our needs that we take for granted every day, they're not superheroes. They're good folks, but they're going to be in the same spot you are. They're probably not going to be able to go to work, so chance of being able to get to those little convenience stores to get gas and things are going to be a challenge. But when evacuation happens and those fuel supplies are depleted, it really puts a strain on your emergency responders and all the utility companies coming in. So be smart about that. Don't be panicking and overreacting. Get what you need and prepare for at least 72 hours to a week. And these are just my opinions there at the house. If you're not going to, limit your gas use. But more importantly, you're probably going to lose power. You don't have to stock up on food. You got a whole freezer full of stuff that you're probably going to lose. So fill up the gas containers on the gas grill, and that's how you can cook for a few days. Water is another big issue, and not just bottled water. If you've been in a flood zone or in a catastrophe like that, it's hard to get clean. You just long to be clean again. because for whatever reason, if your electric water heater, that's out. You're not able to heat water if you don't have the gas. But just for cleanliness around the house, draw up buckets of water before it comes in. Put them out in the garage. If you don't need them, you can dump them on the flower bed after it's done. Another thing, cash. The ATMs are probably going to be down, at least for a short time, and you might need a little cash. Well, those big old armored trucks aren't running like they were, and the change will be depleted, the smaller bills. Don't go get $300 and have three $100 bills. Get you some small bills, some 5s, some 10s, some 1s, some 20s, things that you can use to actually purchase things and not put a burden on the change flow and the monetary needs of the small town you're in. And help your neighbor. That's the biggest thing. If you're fine, then go seek out those on your street. Make sure everybody's good to go. If you're in a flood zone, anywhere near a creek or a river, if you will, that hadn't ever flooded, in a catastrophic rain event like this, it can happen to overflow. And be prepared for your exit strategy if you chose to stay behind. I remember in Harvey so many tragic stories of people hitting the attic and getting up in that attic from inside the house because the water was rising. Folks, there ain't no way out of that attic. If you don't have an axe or something in it, it's hot. It's not meant for us to be in there. There's no airflow to speak of. Don't get in the attic. Don't do that. If you're not able to get to a higher place, at least get on the roof. And if you need rescuing, a white sheet is, make sure you know where that's at, and you put it out there on the porch or the highest point on your house. And that's the best way to signal any rescuers looking for someone in dire need. But that's just kind of been heavy on my heart today. There's a lot of other things, little tips and tricks you can do. But you don't have to go out and deplete the grocery store. You know, I mean that. You're either going to use or lose everything in that freezer if you're out of power for an extended time. So just go look at it. If storm's coming a couple of days from now and you got a big old pot roast that's been in there for a month or two, get ready to get the seasonings together and a pot to cook it in on the gas grill, because you're going to be eating it or throwing it out. But main thing is, don't panic. We're Americans. Will always pull through and be smart and listen to your emergency channels and stay connected, because so many times people are cut off for 3 days. We're a social society now with Facebook and all the social media. You're going to feel really alienated when you don't have power. Rumors will be rampant. You won't know what's coming next. So take a second, maybe buy a couple of those external phone chargers and keep them charged up so that at least you've got some connection to the world and can know that everything's going to be all right. But a little different take today on the Chronicles, but it's just kind of been bugging me as I see different ones posting about it and create ensuing panic. That never helps. But just be prudent and plan, and then work your plan. That's the best way to do it. But anyway, had a pretty good day, and that's enough of my rambling about hurricane preparedness or even disaster preparedness in whole. But guess I'll have to figure out how to put some corn up and replace some of those decade-old ruined canned vegetables in there with some fresh stuff for too long. Well, I'm going to get wet standing out here too long. Y'all know me, I got to walk around some. Did feed the chickens. Everybody's good out there. I got 4 eggs today. That's a big deal. So I think they hear me keep talking about somebody's going to have to hit the table, and they start figuring out how to lay them eggs. So, but just really proud about this rain here, but I know it's going to be a burden in some other areas of the country as these tropical storms move in. So check on those you love and make sure that everybody's got a plan to stay in touch. Don't panic. Do no harm. That creates more stress on the responders that are actually attending to emergencies. So we'll get through it. We're Americans. That's what we do, right? Y'all be the difference and go give blood if you want to help. That'll help tremendously. There's always a big strain on the blood banks at this time of the year with all the different storms that come through. But I'm going to act like I got some sense and get out of this rain and get some stuff done in the house this evening. But just want to jump on here and say howdy, have a good week, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. Be the difference and be the light. Y'all have a good night.